Forkast.News is your gateway to all things blockchain. We do the deep dive and the due diligence on the blockchain projects and platforms that matter, because we aim to be the most reliable source of intellectual discourse and insight that inform, educate, and bridge the gap between the blockchain industry and the mainstream. Welcome to another episode of In Conversation With. We are on location in Taipei, Asia Blockchain Summit, and just flying in from Shanghai is Edith Yeung. She's an advisor of 500 startups, but also a founder of a new fund, a new venture capital fund called Proof of Capital. And you're here in the blockchain crypto space. You're also the author and the creator of the China Internet Report. So you're a visionary, you see what the landscape is, and you're assessing this ecosystem. Edith, what do you see?
First off, Angie, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I think the name of this particular conference is called Asian Blockchain Summit, right? I think Asia is definitely the place to be in terms of blockchain adoption, or in general, I think all the crypto activities. As much as I spent half of my time in Silicon Valley, there's some really interesting technology researcher from Stanford, Berkeley there. But at the end of the day, I think Asia, particular, we're in Hong Kong, in mainland China, or in Taipei, places where people are like craving for new inventions. Sort of think about what WeChat Pay and Alipay, in terms of fintech, had completely changed the way how people transact in mainland China. I think as much as there's really interesting technology coming out from the US, adoption is all going to happen in Asia.
It's interesting that you say the technology talent pool is very much alive in Silicon Valley. It's the adoption, the real life enterprise that's actually happening in Asia.
Yep.
Why are we so hungry for it here in Asia?
I think in general, like when think about in some way, Hong Kong for a long time always sort of, hey, we're the financial hub. But similar to the US, there's too much infrastructure. And if you're trying to change behavior with changing legacy system, it's quite hard to do. Versus, in Asia, in many countries, started with China, 5-10 years ago, there's credit card penetration is still less than 3 million. You're talking about over 1 billion people now on WeChat Pay and Alipay. When you had nothing, and new technology will completely change. It's not even changing anything. It's giving you finally something that you can use. And that's why in many cases now, unlike in the Web 1.0, 2.0 day, I felt like I have to convince a lot of the Silicon Valley entrepreneur or technologists, hey, come and do something in Asia. And now with blockchain, I don't have to convince them. They want to come. Yeah. And that's why you see so many international Americans, European wanted to come learn, because the whole landscape environment is craving for it, because we didn't have anything to start with, and let's make like payment and remittances cheaper, easier, and blockchain technology can potentially really enable that and makes it so much cheaper to transact cross country. Or if you look at the crypto to crypto exchange and trading space, everybody know like the top 10 crypto started with Binance, Huobi, OKEX, and BitMax. They all started sort of this part of the world. And not let alone in the mining area, the top miners are pretty much all in China. So that's why a lot of the international entrepreneurs and founders all want to come here and learn.
What are they learning, and what are they missing out on? What is the greatest cultural divide or naivete that happens when they land here?
I think that first off, I think all Asians work super hard. Angie, I'm sure that it's not just 996. You probably,
it's the Asia hustle.
That's right, 24/7. And a lot of my friends from Silicon Valley are just amazed in terms of the work ethics.
Yeah.
And if you want to launch something, and don't get me wrong, I learned so much from spending so many years in the Valley, and they're very, very thoughtful about building technology that are very bulletproof in some way, but the speed is very, if you talk to any Chinese entrepreneurs, we talk literally in days and weeks, and when certain things will launch. And I think a lot of the Asian entrepreneurs, they're not afraid to make mistakes and just launch fast, fail fast, and reiterate again and again and again.
Well, it's speed to market. That's number one. And you're interacting with the market. They're telling you what they want. Your consumers are telling you what they want, what's wrong with your product in real time. You can iterate and innovate versus it happening in a bubble or a vacuum. You assume, maybe you do some focus grouping or some studies, and then you try to come up with a product.
It's too slow. And also on top of that, in addition to sort of human and mentality, is also the regulatory environment. For good or bad, China have a love-hate relationship with crypto versus blockchain. And we're Asian, we have sort of gambling blood. As much as I think sometimes I sort of make fun of it. Anything that the Chinese government is trying to block is probably something big. And so in many sense, even though you're not supposed to use RMB to buy crypto, there's no law to necessarily ban it. It's just that, obviously they want to do things by the book. But in the US, let's say for Coinbase, it takes them at least 2 to 3 years to get state by state money transmitter license. It just takes a long time. So in many cases, coming to Asia, you can just launch it and see what happens. And of course, we wanted all our entrepreneurs to do things by the book and be compliant and legal. At the same time, because a lot of these laws, even for government, they are here, they're very entrepreneurial too. I think, Chinese government, Taiwanese government, or Hong Kong government, they want more business to come in. So in that sense, that's why there's no concrete law. They just want to see, hey, if this is something, then there will be regulatory sort of restriction. Now it's more or less is we welcome you and we'll see what happens, launch it. And in fact, earlier this year, President Xi actually publicly say, hey, he believed blockchain will be part of creating sort of the China future in terms of technology, alongside with robotics, autonomous car, and artificial intelligence. So all of a sudden, this year there's about 196 companies actually officially registered in all the major cities in China that have a license that is working on blockchain-related things. And then on top of that, Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent, even though they're not completely decentralized or public blockchain, they do have a lot of private blockchain enterprise projects and platforms that they are pushing. So it's a very exciting time, to be in this part of the world, seeing at all sides that everybody is pushing for this.
I mean, geopolitically, right now you have US-China trade wars, you have that tension that exists, and really it's technologically based if you think about it.
Yes.
Is the US regulatory side driving brain drain, driving talent to Asia? And is that something that is receptive on the China side or the Asia side?
I think that me as a technologist, it pains me sometimes that the technology really should not be political. And unfortunately, now sometimes it's the centerpiece of the conversation. And I think what's happening now in the US, unfortunately, a lot of the particular foreign investment restricted by CVIs, not even allowed to invest in some of these sensitive technology, one. And then on top of that, US government now being more restrictive on certain visa, particularly for Chinese to enter the country. So in that sense, it's too bad, because I think that U.S. historically been so open and supportive and such a great melting pot, so that everybody wants to go there. Now it's more or less, it seems like the trust is sort of broken, and a lot of the entrepreneurs wanted to come to Asia to explore opportunities, and seems like people are excited and welcome. So I think it's great for us, this part of the world, that really to see more and more talent, not just from Asia alone, but also worldwide, want to come here.
I was just in Vietnam. I was just in Vietnam and really taking a look at the ecosystem there. I'm here today over the course of a couple of days in Taiwan. It's really these economies that are trying to participate with the big boys in the global economy. Does blockchain allow countries like this, emerging markets, frontier nations, predominantly here in Asia and developing markets, to be sure, does blockchain allow these nations to leapfrog and play with the big boys? on a global stage?
Well, to start with, if you think about putting my investor hat on,
Yeah.
we always like to talk about, hey, where are the unicorns, right? Where are the talent? And I think worldwide, even not for the crypto side, to start with, let's say, started with exchanges, Coinbase, worth about $8 billion. Okay, that's a US company. But I am very, very sure Binance, BitMax is already at the unicorn level, if not more, in terms of transaction volume. On the mining side, companies like Bitmain, Keenan, these are already at the unicorn level as well. So, and those are all in China. So it's not even leapfrog. I think it's already leading.
Yeah.
But of course, I think the blockchain community, the crypto community is very international and very global.
Yeah.
You sort of see this community. I can see this community in New York. I can see them in Berlin, and they're very global from day one because the crypto community, particularly for the developer side, you really could be anywhere in Vietnam, in a garage.
Decentralized,
coding.
truly decentralized.
Absolutely.
China is receptive to this. I mean, blockchain is one thing, but making cryptocurrency illegal really undermines the ability for blockchain projects to capitalize and work on their projects.
That's right. And I think that there has been rumor that the PBOC been thinking about, hey, is that possible to have a tether of RMB? And in some ways, the whole essence of blockchain is, of course, absolutely should be decentralized. So the other day, it was really funny. I was after President Xi talks about blockchain is the future for China and technology, I started seeing these TV shows that talks about blockchain on CCTV.
Oh, very coordinated.
And
where did they get this content all of a sudden?
And then the way that they explain, there's no word of decentralization at all. It's distributed. It's a really robust data architecture. It's about transparency.
Okay, but it's permissioned and
permissioned.
It's still centralized blockchain.
That's correct.
So they did not talk about the decentralization aspect of the technology.
And I was actually watching that with my mother. And my mother, to me, I finally understand what blockchain is about. I said, this is not what it's about. But it's really interesting to see how, in some way, I think that's why earlier what I said about the love-hate relationship, I think this is not just a Chinese government challenge.
It's really not.
It's worldwide.
And I really think that this conversation is now evolving to, is it centralized or decentralized? We often talk about the technology itself, and it's a fantastic technology that allows for that transparency and all the rest. But it's the decentralization that actually makes it powerful and dangerous.
That's correct. And I think all the government, not just China, are trying to form thesis, framework, and trying to see, let's say this whole Facebook's launch of Libra, right? Immediately the US government and asking Mark Zuckerberg and David Marcus, what are you guys doing? And in some sense, what really get me excited is to think about how the Web 2.0 platform now trying to learn from the WeChat Pay and Alipay, and even the social network is trying to become a bank. And are they going to be? I don't know. But certainly, in some sense, 2 billion people, monthly active users on Facebook is at least 7 or 8 times of the population of the US. So in that case, wouldn't that be interesting? We're looking at them as the internet nation states and them pushing, even though I don't think they're completely decentralized either. But we'll see. I think it's a great validation of what's happening.
What are the trends in blockchain right now in China? Where are the markets that are going to be created for the future?
I think China is, in 2017, there's so many ICO projects. And that's why the Chinese government got really scared because there's in Mandarin, there's this word called 韭菜, which stands for chive, which is really stand for people who really have no idea what they're doing and retail traders. And on September 4th, they basically stopped all of that. And I remember that day really clearly because Bitcoin price literally dropped like crazy. So in that sense, a lot of these projects, particularly ICO, is definitely a big no-no in China. And I think the theme for 2017 early 2018 is so much around sort of the infrastructure protocol level, regardless, particular focus on scalability. Everybody sort of say, I'm going to be the Ethereum of China, and there's so many of them.
Yeah.
And I think I don't see those anymore. But I do think that the DeFi, decentralized finance, regardless from a like transacting loans or trading or decentralized exchange.
But isn't that already taken care of by WeChat or Alipay?
And those are definitely in terms of like transfer of value and payment. They're really, really well done. But I think from the crypto side of things, there are some really interesting product that, like for the last few days, when I spent time in Beijing and Shanghai, more and more of these folks will have really strong trading background now is providing sort of like financial tools and services to help some of the like retail traders to get more educated. On the media side of things, definitely a lot of education needed. And then also the trading tools or DEX or financial instrument, and now is sort of up and coming. But then again, because there's a lot of talent on the exchange side, on trading, and also on the mining side. So I think that will continue to be a hot topic in China.
At the end of the day, do you think that we'll ever see mass adoption in China?
I think most of the Chinese traders, they're all doing it, but they just can't say it. I don't have particular number to back it up per se, but I heard rumor said, most of the top crypto exchanges, more than 50% of their users are actually from China. So there's a lot of excitement already. But of course, all of them need to be careful and also be respectful of government.
All right, give me a little snapshot, a little preview of China Internet Report for 2019. The biggest insight that you see for blockchain or crypto or innovation?
I think surprisingly, the number one companies in terms of working on blockchain is a company that you and I already know, and financials. They are the number one in terms of valuation, 150 billion, right, as a private company in the world. And they are actually internally already have many blockchain projects, and in fact want to push more and more enterprise to build on their blockchain ecosystem. Many of them is really sort of a fork of Hyperledger, but at least like they're pushing, so it's very exciting to see. I think the big topic obviously is what's going on with China-US trade war. Even you want to ignore it, you can't. So as a whole, in the whole world of China, I think now, even though it seems like this couple of days is getting better, but on the hardware side, regardless it's a 5G for networking hardware, or also on the chipset hardware, well, it's also related to mining as well. More and more of these companies will be not only Chinese government, but many of the players want to be more homegrown, so you don't rely on the US so much.
What an intriguing insight into China and Asia, and really from your perch to share that insight with us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Edith Yeung. So that was Edith Yeung, author and founder of the China Internet Report. Head over to www.Forkast.News and find out more about her report this year. Don't forget to subscribe for exclusive content and newsletter. In fact, subscribe right here on our YouTube channel so that you can be among the first to get our latest content and our on-camera interviews with some of the top newsmakers in blockchain today. Like, subscribe, and don't forget to share with your tribe as well. Until next time, I'm Angie Lau. See you then.